Namaste, Jai Hind, and welcome to this edition of The Right Stand. I'm Anand Narsimhan. First up, viewers, over the next 40-45 minutes, we will focus on two major developments in the region, in the neighborhood, that have and that will have huge impact on the road ahead for Bharat too, because it could reshape geopolitics in this region, and also whether or not will we see the next decade and a half of peace or strife in the region. From Gaza truce to the Pak-Taliban talks in Doha, we will also look at whether or not this is an intent to give peace a chance, or are entities only biding for time. Now, earlier in the day, the Foreign Minister of Egypt called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. The PM conveyed warm congratulations to President Sisi for Egypt's crucial role in the Gaza peace agreement. Foreign Minister Abdelati briefed Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the first Bharat-Egypt strategic dialogue that's being held during his visit. Meanwhile, a dispute over the return of hostages' bodies held by Hamas threatened to derail the truce between Hamas and Israel. Israel said that there was one body of a hostage and demanded that the terror group return all hostages. We also had Donald Trump turn around and say unless Hamas signs up and drops its arms and drops its weapons, there is no deal and we will go in and shoot them. And then said, thank you for your attention to this matter. But how much weight, credence will the presence of 20 nations in this entire Gaza peace deal actually give to perhaps a possibility of peace, and peace at what cost? Are all sides happy? And if all sides are not happy, then can there ever be lasting peace and a solution to this entire conundrum in this region? The most conflicted region in the world, and perhaps the most fought over piece of real estate. That's what is described in this region. Lieutenant General D.B. Pandey, security analyst, former GOC 15 Corps with us, Ambassador Deepak Vora, former diplomat with us, Arjun Hardas, Indian representative of the American Jewish Committee is with us, and also Tara Karta, former director NSCS with us, and Tilak Devashaji should be joining us in a bit. But namaste and Jai Hind to everybody. Thank you for your time. Let me ask you, General Pandey, from a military perspective, is this peace going to hold?
Yeah, just because 20 leaders of countries were actually blackmailed, armed, twisted to be present for this deal, and most of them were there to just showcase their presence. And you are seeing that how the countries are bending backwards to actually smile and bend in front of Trump. I don't think so, because there are 2-3 underlying issues. One very major underlying issue is to get all the bodies back. While they have got the hostages alive, but bodies coming back is going to be very difficult, because Hamas aren't going to give it so easy. And second, I'm very sure they also don't know where they are. So, right, that is one part. The second is that what will happen to the expansion, I'll not say occupation, but whichever way one wants to look at it, there are areas which Hamas wants Israel to get back, and not only Hamas. There are a number of other people who are just tom-tomming what is Hamas has been telling the world that they need to get out from that location. That is the second part. Third is Hamas okay with the Palestinian organization to take over that area, and will it hand over its weapons? It is impossible, because it is not only targeted towards Israel, it is also targeted to their own people, because the control and in Gaza is through actually use of weapon, and there is a certain degree of polarization taking place. People want to get away from Hamas, but the moment you imagine what will happen to Hamas the moment they surrender weapon and they keep weapon down, it's not going to happen so easy. It is just started. The choice with Israel, and please understand the political facet of it. While I know that, at least I believe that Netanyahu is willing to take on everything on his chin, what has happened on 7th October in terms of intelligence failure, he will take it on his chin. That chap has got huge broad shoulders. But the fact also remains that the moment he hands over, he gets steps back, there is a constituency within Israel which is going to get after him. It is a democracy, all right, and I think how it will play out will only time will tell. So right now the situation aren't so easy. While everybody is backing up, at the last point, I just want to wind up.
Right.
Who is going to carry out the reconstruction activity in Gaza? Who is going to fund it? Who is going to control it? Are the people going to be living there and continue to do it? Because Gazans have got a way of actually sorting out their own life and not doing it easy. So
Right.
there are other challenges which are involved. It is not going to be an easy road ahead.
Right. There is also West Bank. So what happens
Yeah,
to this
I-
entire West Bank region? Ambassador Deepak Vora, the thought process is there are more people who want the conflict to continue because it's in their interest and profits rather than the conflict to end. Who empowered the Hamas, who armed them, who allowed it all this while also arming and weaponizing the Israelis, who was the mastermind behind October 7 and whatever happened thereafter, who thought about it all. There are all many questions which are asked, and the Palestinians also have their own view. But where do you stand on what is happening? Is there a chance for peace, or are we just delaying the inevitable, that is more conflict?
Thank you very much, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes. Namaste.
All right. Namaste. I'm in New York at the moment, and it's 9:30 in the morning, and it's 5 degrees Celsius. So please forgive all the woolens that I have draped over my shoulders. Thank you very much. This morning came back from a walk, talked to many friends. My group has senators, retired congressmen, journalists, academics, some Israelis, etc. Now you asked who's interested in stopping the war. All right. Let me put it to you. Let me ask you a counter question. Who are the three main players? There's Israel. They are there. They want the weapons because it's a question of survival. Then there is the Palestinians, the so-called Palestinians. Who cares about them? And then Hamas. What is Hamas doing? Why does it need heavy equipment? Who are they fighting? Why did they start the fight? All these years, Hamas existed. Israel didn't clobber them. They were very happy. Hamas is still committed to the elimination of the Jewish state. So it's not going to happen. Arming of you asked this question, who's been arming Hamas? You have the answer as much as I do, sir. Israel has been getting weapons from the United States, has a very developed defense industry in that area. It is an outpost of the West in a volatile Islamic neighborhood, the only stable country there. The rest is a bit of a joke. I was rereading T.E. Lawrence's book about the Middle East. I'll show it to you in a moment. And it exactly what he had predicted, that area, it's uncontrollable. Because Yasser Arafat, I remember when I was studying at the Sorbonne in Paris, he came to address us. And he said, yes, as long as we have Israel, we'll fight them. When Israel doesn't fight with us, then we Arabs will clobber each other. Because we can't do without fighting. That's the kind of mindset that these fellows had. And what they did was horrendous. So Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will, of course, ride through this, whatever is happening. Sir, of the 20 countries that were there, the one that I was listening to most carefully was that Badmaash Sharif, who, short of saying to Donald Trump, there is Allah in heaven and there is Donald Trump on earth, he said everything else. And I don't know if you heard what Trump told him before he invited him to speak. He said, all the flattery you've been giving me for the last 2 days, say it publicly. And the poor chap was totally trapped. He didn't know what to do. If you hear that soundbite, it's fascinating. And Trump was standing like a hawk listening and make one mistake and I'll give you a kick in your wherever it hurts. So, it was fascinating. Therefore, sir, all these jokers who had showed up there, they were standing behind Trump. And did you see what Giorgia Meloni did? And she's very good at rolling her eyes. And when this fellow started speaking, she was doing, oh, kya bol raha hai, this kind of thing. It's not going to work. Take it from me. So I'm 74, 52 years in diplomacy. Israel will have to continue to defend itself, to arm itself, to do what it has to, because the survival of Israel, and nobody's going to threaten the survival of Israel, but Israel being there is the only chance. I say this against conventional wisdom, is the only chance the Middle East has to enjoy some kind of stability and peace. Israel is the key player, sir.
Now, Israel is the key player, but the terms and conditions, unless they are acceptable to all sides, Arjun Tarakarta ji is also with us. Namaste. How will there be peace? Now, look at what's happening. At a time when there's supposed to be peace, nations are talking about dropping of hostilities. The Maccabi Football Club, Maccabi Tel Aviv Football Club fans are not going to be allowed into the stadium in Birmingham for the 6th November match against the Aston Villa Football Club. That's the development in the UK. Keir Starmer is upset about it. Gideon Sarr is upset about it. But Ayub Khan, the Birmingham MP, comes out and says it's in the interest of the community that these fans are not allowed because our cops cannot stop if there is violence. Now, how does that mean there is going to be peace? What's the point of a Gaza peace accord if in Britain, Birmingham, the stadium is going to say Jews are not allowed? That's quite literally that's what they're saying. Arjun.
These Jews are not allowed is something which I think, unfortunately, a lot of people of a certain age have forgotten from the 30s and the 20s, and even before that in the Western world, where certain hotels, clubs, public places in the United States were very clear about no Jews allowed. Golf clubs couldn't admit Jews. Hotels could not admit Jews. I've stayed in one in Chicago, which I asked. I said, why was this built by the Jewish community? They said, because we weren't allowed to stay in any Chicago hotel, a regular hotel. So we had to build one of our own. There's this misunderstanding that anti-Semitism, especially in the Western world, has came down, and it is down, and only certain conditions have been created because, without saying so, because of how Israeli actions is that anti-Semitism is back. It never went away. It never went away in the Western world, especially after the war. There was let's put it like this, a little dipping to keep it a little quiet, but it's back to where it was. Nothing has changed. So. And then let's be honest, I mean, this whole thing in Birmingham about not allowing the Jews, I mean, let's say what happened last year in Amsterdam. Jews were hunted. And it's not a question of Israelis. Jews were hunted. What is a Jew sitting in, let's say, New York or in Manchester have anything to do with what's happening in Israel? But in that context, then somebody carries out, let's say an Islamist carries out a suicide bombing somewhere else. So should every Muslim around the world be beaten up because of that? That because he was a co-religionist of yours?
No, but there is a difference between Islam and Islamist. Islam and Islamism. But there's no difference between an Israeli and a Jew. There's no difference between the IDF and someone who is held hostage.
Jews, Israelis, Jews should not be allowed into the stadium, should not be allowed to attend the thing. What is the government doing then? This is completely what they call appeasement. Nothing else. And nothing is going to get sorted out. The more you appease, the more this is going to come up and up. This is going to go. Now, Jews are not allowed. Next time, they're not going to be allowed somewhere else. You can't attend. Jews cannot sit in restaurants. Jews cannot be given a drink. Is that going to be what is acceptable? You have your political differences, fine. But so basically the government of the United Kingdom has abdicated its duties of protection of whoever visits or a citizen.
But what I'm saying is that the sentiment of hostility remains. You see what's happening, the world war. You're talking about a peace plan and this hostility remains. So what's the point of it all?
This is not a peace plan. This is a ceasefire plan. There is going to be no peace in that region, not for decades, if not centuries to come. The basic fundamental problem is when you've got Hamas, which has made it very clear, open, and you mentioned that in your opening statement, that they do not want anything except to see the end and the elimination of all Jews and Israelis.
Yeah, it's in their doctrine. It's in their doctrine.
It's open. It's in Arabic. It's very clear, and in English as well. Now the question is, what is the problem? One of the biggest problems that they've got, and it's that Israel occupies 0.1% of what is perceived to be the Islamic Arabic world. That's not allowed. That's perfectly not allowed. So where is even if there is a peace, even if, as they say, the Jews, the Israelis lay down their arms, they surrender everything that you want them to do from the other side that they do, they will either have to leave eventually or they will be killed. That's very, very clear from the other side. So what peace? I mean, people have this doctrine, this talk which people keep talking about, is that 750,000 Arabs had to leave Israel. Does anybody talk about 850,000 Jews who were kicked out from every single Arab Muslim country in 1948 of the foundation of Israel? Every single. Where is the right of return for them? Where is the right of property for them? What about their houses? Was there compensation given? Nothing. Zero. It's very one-sided. And the more of this kind of Birmingham kind of a thing, of appeasement, is going to continue, the more it's going to happen. And this is not the end. You appease them once, the Islamists, if you want to put it that way, it is going to continue. There's going to be no end to it. And until the rest are going to be targeted by exactly this. It's not just a question of anti-Semitism. It is complete. Again, I'll repeat, this is not a peace plan. This is a temporary ceasefire plan as has happened between the Hamas and Israel in 2008, 2014, 2021, 2018. Temporary ceasefire.
Yeah, but it's never come to this part where the precondition is cessation of hostilities at all points is to drop arms. Or,
You've seen that.
Or the writ is very clear that we are not allowing you to regroup. We are going to come in and keep shooting you till the time you drop your arms. Now that is something which is a departure. But is this tenable? Tara Karta, your thoughts? 1 second.
Yeah.
I think I would go with what the earlier speaker said. You cannot expect, this whole concept of disarming. You can only disarm if there is something cohesive at the back which ensures the security of those who are being disarmed. Otherwise, nobody's going to disarm. What is that guy going to do next? Right? So as a process, is it wrong? As a principle, it's fantastic. You stop the war, you stop the killing. But as a process, it is terrible. Number two is the fact that despite, I have all of us have a lot of sympathy for Israel, but the fact that they even refuse to accept the Palestinian Authority, you're going to create a void where the Hamas is already taking up its space. So I don't know what is going on here. Hamas, as we know, has again started fighting. There's some talk of infighting. There's another group which has come up, and there is stuff, there is a lot of, they are not weakened yet. So I don't see them disarming. I would ideally would like to have this international force which is there on the ground protecting everyone's thing. But in the end, the question is, if the Hamas has fought for so long, they're stepping back from asking for power, which they jolly well should not, considering they're a terrorist group. But what are you going to do with them? That is, so this is unreal. I would agree with this. This is not a process that's going to go very far.
Well, General Pandey, if this process is not going to go very far, what does Donald Trump achieve? What is he trying to do? Why are 20 countries standing behind him there?
So these are, while we all understand there are challenges, but the attempt from the world must continue to go on. Right? That is one part. The second is that please understand that I'm sure even Trump and his advisor are telling him that Hamas, while Netanyahu may believe that they have wiped out, they have wiped out two layers of leadership. Right? But it is a very amorphous organization. In fact, you're well aware, we talked about it earlier also, the entire numbers which have been neutralized or killed or taken out, they have come back. So while what we see is destruction of buildings, assets, infrastructure, housing, whatever it has happened, but the fact remains that there is enough pool available for Hamas to fill. And every cycle of killing, now look how unfortunate it is. The world has forgotten about 7th October.
Correct.
The world has forgotten about what happened in 1948 when our co-panelist is saying that 850,000 Jews were hunted out and they were sent back and there's no place. But everybody is now focusing on the destruction which has taken place in 7th October onwards. So the mind shift which has taken place at the international level is also very surprising because nobody is focusing on the cause. So till the time actually Hamas is controlled, and I'm sure that Netanyahu, if he feels that the peace is possible, what Taraji is saying is that they will possibly accept Palestinian Authority, but where is the voice of Palestinian Authority? Who wants to follow them? Right? So on West Bank, they have wiped out the Hezbollah leadership. Here they wiped out the Hamas leadership. But the numbers remain, and more dangerous is that whom do you talk to actually to get the peace in that location? Let's come to the larger part. Right? Let's look at the three corners where things are under trouble. I'll just take a minute and I'll leave the floor. On one corner, you got Ukraine-Russian war, which is going on now, not controlled, uncontrollable as of now. Second part of this triangle, you have Israel-Hamas thing going on, the tamping up is happening. On the third side, you got in the triangle, slightly biggish, there are very rare areas, and you see Afghanistan, Pakistan, imbroglio happening. And everything in between is in a limbo, is in under pressure, tension. As long as this continues, certain elements will continue to thrive because today, larger portion of economy is dead, right? They are all activities are to, one is to seize control, take control, and also to continue to drive economics, because peace is not good for economists, especially for America and for the deep state and the defense industry.
Nations that
Complex.
thrive.
Either you should have COVID to drive economy, or you have to have real estate burgeoning, or you have to have certain degree of wars or things are going to happen.
Because nations that
And
thrive
just
on a war economy, they lead.
Correct. So this triangle is where the war economy today is thriving.
We'll come
And
to this
just
angle of the triangle, the AFPAC bit, in just a bit. Just one question before we move on to the AFPAC bit on the Gaza aspect. Ambassador Deepak Vora, do you think Prime Minister Narendra Modi was wise to skip this?
Oh, absolutely. There is no question about it. By way of disclaimer to our colleague, our Jewish colleague who's here, may I just say, sir, my extended family in New York, we have a Jewish son-in-law. And I'm going to be seeing him in a little while. We all love him dearly, sir. You're wonderful people. We absolutely have a right to exist. Shalom. Pizza Khande Israel. May you win. So all I'd just like to say that Prime Minister Narendra Modi not going there for what? To stand behind the fellow with all these jokers from Europe and other? Do what? Make a speech like this the gentleman from Jihadistan made over there? No. It's very good that he didn't go, and he sent a junior minister there who stood. And then you heard President Donald Trump later. He used 4 epithets for everybody: outstanding, incredible, amazing, brilliant. Everybody was brilliant, outstanding, amazing. That's what he was talking about, scowling all the time, mocking everybody over there. So my own feeling is Prime Minister did very well to show we follow our own policy. I don't come at the drop of a hat when you summon me. India stands tall, India stands firm. And sir, if I may say so, as an Indian, sir, forget religion. As an Indian, my heart is firmly with Israel, sir.
We, at least in Bharat, we have always backed a two-state policy. Let the Palestinians govern, let the Israelis do what? Nobody attacks each other's sovereignty or each other's security.
It won't happen, sir. It won't happen, sir.
Yeah,
we had a two-state. We had a two-state policy in 1947 when Jihadistan was created. How do you change the mindset, sir?
Correct. That was my question. I was about to ask you. You asked. So that's where it is. There will be no cessation of hostilities, even if somebody wipes out the Hamas or de-arms them or disarms them for the moment. They will end up somewhere else and they'll regroup somewhere else, and the narrative will switch elsewhere. You may drop arms, but you've not gone to. The thought process is still weaponized, and that's where the problem is. Thank you, Arjun Hardas. I'm going to let you go because we're going to shift focus to AFPAC. You're most welcome to stay on with us, even as Tilak Devashar ji also joins us at this point.